Welcome to the Innovation Journal brought to you by the Institute for Environment and Social Innovation. I am your host, Dr. Ernest Topoku-Boateng. In today's episode, we'll be looking at the circular economy. What is it and why has it become necessary? We also try and discuss what jurisdictions and businesses are doing to operationalize this concept and what the future holds. Circularity is not new. It is as old as time. That is what nature and indigenous communities do. From the hydrological cycle to other geochemical cycles, nature has always been about equilibrium and keeping things in a perpetual loop. In nature, everything is food for something else. There is no waste. The same is true of traditional societies, including many in Africa, where sharing, repairing, recycling, upscaling, prolonged resource use, as well as regenerative and restorative practices are the norm. Characterized by frugal consumption and innovation, strong land ethics, and collaborative practices, these societies have a lot to teach. Circularity goes beyond recycling. Many people equate circularity with recycling, but that's not the case. Circularity at the core focuses on designing out waste and pollution, keeping materials in use and regenerating natural systems. It is about refusing, reusing, reducing, repairing, refurbishing, and remanufacturing, repurposing, and finally recycling, all aimed at ensuring that we use fewer resources and live within planetary limits. Circularity is based on three key principles. These are designing out waste or pollution, keeping material in use as long as possible, and regenerative natural systems. The circular economy requires a systemic change to design out waste, avoid pollution, and keep materials in use as long as possible. A transition to a circular economy requires a change in all our mindsets. We need to recognize, as a matter of principle, the value of products that we use and the materials we extract. It is crucial that we understand and recognize the true value and cost of production and consumption. For this to happen, we need a joint commitment and innovative action from governments, businesses, organizations, civil society, and consumers. So why are we now talking about circularity? What are the drivers of circularity? Why has it gained popularity in recent times? There are a number of reasons for this. The first one that comes to mind is the fact that the current linear take, make, use, and dispose model is not working. It is causing environmental havoc, exacerbating biodiversity loss, increasing greenhouse gas emissions, and intensifying climate change. Planetary boundaries are also being exceeded. The second point or driver is that the linear approach coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic and other emergencies also deepening existing socioeconomic inequalities. And this does not bode well for global peace and security. The third point or driver is that the linear approach has been seen to be not just environmentally harmful, but economically wasteful. The circular economy has been estimated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation as being worth over $47 trillion. This is huge. This amount of money can be used to address many of the intractable problems that we face. Meanwhile, about 50% of the food that is grown globally is also wasted. Almost $1 trillion. Imagine all the resources that go into producing this amount of food, all ending up in landfills and in being wasted. This is a very sobering statistic. So many businesses, being aware of the economic potential and the economic waste that comes with the linear approach, have decided to take action. They have tried to operationalize this concept by using a number of practices that also take advantage of new platforms and new digital technology. Businesses have taken the circular economy approach and adopted new models that decouple resource use from growth. They are doing more with less through improvement in multi-factor productivity. They are also unblocking and unlocking value from resources by using waste as raw materials and input for new processes. Other approaches include the mapping of resource flows through resource mapping and measurement, closing the loop with suppliers to ensure that they are implementing circular economy principles internally, promoting circular economy behavior among stakeholders, and developing new materials, chemicals, and processes. Well, I don't want to bore you with all the specific things that businesses over the globe are doing, but here are just a few. Some are designing for modularity and repair. Others are producing or offering products as services. Others are using renewable parts and recycled content, whilst others are closing the material loop, life cycle loop by creating products that can be upcycled. There are others in many areas that are hiring and or leasing instead of owning property and equipment. Performance service systems, incentivize returns, asset management, collaborative consumption, and peer-to-peer return and exchange have become very simple processes being adopted by other businesses. But governments are also not being left behind. Governments are adopting policy frameworks that incentivize circular economy behavior and practices. These include net zero waste policies, mandating minimum content rules, offering subsidies, and establishing material exchange programs where solution providers and seekers can meet on a common platform and share ideas and materials that are in excess or that they no longer need. Other governments have made environmental justice, building back better and carbon neutrality, which has been enshrined in law, key policy objectives including trade. In some cases, COVID-19 related funding has also been made conditional on the attainment of key environmental targets and the incorporation of circular economy and just transition principles. So, are there any areas where circular economy practices and policies predominate? Well, there are. The principles and ideas are reshaping sectors such as food and agriculture, the transportation, fashion and textiles, as well as services industry. And this is for good reason. Take the case of agriculture. As an economic activity, agriculture plays a very important role in the global economy. It provides food, jobs, and raw materials for people and businesses. But the way we farm, we provide, process, consume, and manage food can have a significant impact on health and the environment. In fact, the current linear approach to farming and agriculture has generally been implicated in many environmental issues, including excess use of chemicals, loss of biodiversity, drought, air pollution, and climate change. Unequal access to food has also led to food insecurity and wastage. Today, it is estimated that 50% of all food that is produced globally goes to waste. And 39 million hectares of soil is degraded as a result of agricultural practices. So, what are the opportunities for circularity in the agric and food sector? I believe that every step of the food and agriculture's value chain offers an opportunity for change. Some specific actions that can be taken include prolonging use and regenerating natural systems, using soils, circular economy principles and practices such as regenerative agriculture, precision agriculture, urban farming, vertical farming, and local production. Intensifying the production of food at the local level will reduce the ecological footprint and the pressure on natural resources. It will also promote ownership and local resilience. We can also reduce food waste through food rescue, meal planning, education on food preservation, and changing even the simple food labeling processes. We can also source food grown regeneratively, designing and marketing healthier food products, reducing waste and making the most of food. We can reconnect cities with food and farmers. We can do composting to make sure that organic resources are returned into the soil. Another area of opportunity is the textile and fashion sector. It is not just this particular sector, but there are others as well. But if you look at the fashion industry, with an estimated value of $1 trillion and a global workforce or labor force of 300 million, you would agree with me that it is ripe for change. The fashion industry is currently characterized by excessive resource use, wastage, and environmental pollution. The textile industry, for instance, uses about 98 million tons of non-renewable natural resources every year. Clothes are underutilized as people throw away clothes after a few years of use. Low recycling rates within this sector also lead to landfilling and excess pressure on resources. If the industry continues on the linear trajectory, it may be contributing more than the 7% of global emissions that it currently accounts for. But moving towards a circular economy within the fashion industry can unlock about $560 billion in economic opportunity. Looking at the stress and the poverty in the garment working sector, this savings can go a long way to improve the lot of the poor. We can do so by creating business models that are restorative and regenerative by design. Stakeholders in this sector can design waste and pollution out of the clothes that they produce. They can use safe and renewable inputs such as natural dyes, design clothes for durability, including recycling and upcycling systems. They can also source materials from natural and renewable sources and also reflect environmental costs in the prices so as to make a difference. Currently, many businesses are using rental cloth models, using durable clothes and making resale attractive. They're also boosting clothing care to ensure that the circular economic principles become ingrained and mainstream in that particular sector. But it's not just the textile sector. The building and the built environment, as well as the general resource sector, can also benefit from a circular economy approach through processes such as recycling, product design, bans, extended producer responsibility programs. It is estimated that increased material efficiency in these areas through more intensive use, enhanced end-of-life recovery and recycling of materials, recovery, manufacturing and reuse of components, and product lifetime extension, it can reduce GHG emissions by 40% in G7 countries. So what does the future hold? I think this is a very big question and very much dependent on many factors. But generally, I am hopeful. I think circularity, for all intents and purposes, would be mainstreamed in no time. This is because it is in sync with nature. It makes economic sense, and it is timely. It is timely because it comes at a time when we are confronted by climate, biodiversity, and a pandemic, crises that require urgent and coordinated attention. Successful implementation of the circular economy concepts and practices that we've talked about will require vigilance, strong political will, and commitment. Of course, the economic rationale for adopting the circular economy makes taking action imperative, as doing so is expected to generate trillions of dollars in economic gains, in addition to the protection of biodiversity and ecological services. So as we join hands to create a sustainable planet and to live within our planetary boundaries, this conversation will need to continue. So thank you once again for joining us on Innovation Journal. Our search for enduring solutions continues. Au revoir.